Sponsors of this program give you their weekly award. They award you the next 60 minutes. And the man who'll kill them for you. He's Fred Allen in person.
Thank you. And you notice the difference when you come to this broadcast, Harry, and when you go to a Benny broadcast? When I bend down like that, I come up, my hair is still on. I mean, with Benny, he gets two bows. The second one, he picks up his hair. I mean, thank you, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm certainly glad, Harry, that you mentioned awards tonight. For this evening, I am making a bid myself for the Brevity Award.
The award for brevity, Fred?
Yes, Harry. I'm eliminating all of those jokes you thought you were going to tell right here, and I'm turning to the awards, the latest awards in the news of the week. Ipana News presents The World in Review. New York City, New York. The National Poetry Center at annual meeting awards its Golden Scroll and Medal of Honor to the outstanding national poet of the year. A piece of the trend, Ipana News, a negative cultural force in the world of poetry, makes its annual Poetry Awards. Tonight, we present a group of amateur poets whose works will be read here for the first and positively the last time. Opening our program, the waterfront bard, Mr. Wilbur Gecko. Mr. Gecko, you're here, Mr. Gecko.
Yeah.
You are an amateur mini singer, Mr. Gecko.
Yeah, they're calling me the Poet Lariat at the Fulton Fish Market.
You're the poet at the Fulton Fish Market?
Yeah.
You're sort of a tadpole Tennyson. Well, how did you start writing poetry, Mr. Gecko?
Working at the fish market gave me the idea.
Really?
Yeah, every time I took a deep breath, something told me I ought to get away from myself.
I see.
So I started writing poems about fish.
You did? Well, what are some of your better-known fish poems, Mr. Gecko?
Well, there was, To a Worm Peeking Out of a Gill.
To a worm peeking out of a gill?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the Spring of Flounder's Fancy.
Yes.
Hark, Hark the Shark.
Yeah.
Finn and Hatties have sugar daddies.
I must read your poem sometime.
Yeah, somebody ought to read it.
Yes, as long as you went to the trouble of writing them. I mean, naturally, you just shouldn't let them lie. You keep your poems on ice, I suppose, about fish.
No.
Your poems don't spoil after in the hot weather and
No, they stay just as...
That's good. Very good. And what fish, you wouldn't take a fin for a poem now, an old fish. What fish poem are you going to recite for us tonight, Mr. Gecko?
The Little Shad's Flower.
The Little Shad's Flower.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
The little shad in the aquarium tank looked out the door of her grotto dank. A big male salmon caught her eye. He winked at the shad as he wiggled by. It was love at first sight, and Cupid, the gammon, with one arrow had shot the shad and the salmon. For years they were happy in their habitat wet. The salmon playing Romeo to the shad's Juliet. But one day the salmon, in the act of submersion, rolled over and died in the fins of a sturgeon. The little shad, too, died the very same day. The other fish said, grief has taken her away. Together they were buried, the shad and the salmon, without mayonnaise, without one slice of lemon. One flower decked the salmon as he lay in repose. Not a lily, not a violet, just a little shad rose. What are they laughing at?
Thank you heaps, which I hope you'll sweep up, Mr. Wilbur Gecko. And now a young man who plucks a melancholy string on his creative lute, Mr. Narcissus Bills. What is it you write, Narcissus?
Mostly pine trains.
Poems? Well, what is a pine train?
A pine train is half a quatrain. 2 pine trains make a quatrain.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, are you strictly a commercial poet, Narcissus?
Oh, yeah, I write for money. I might let go of a poem for a due bill, but I gotta know you pretty well.
Well, fortunately you don't, so I shall get away. Now, have you chosen one of your poems to read for us tonight, Narcissus?
Let me see. I got a poem about string. String's a thing.
Strings a thing? No, I don't.
Don't like that.
No.
I got one about wind. Never tease a breeze.
Never. No,
How about fearless?
Fearless. Now, that sounds good. Let's have fearless.
Yeah, okay. Strong men quake at the lion's roar or faint at the tiger's growl. Frank Buck ducks when the buzzard clucks, and he screams at a wildcat's howl. But for them savage brutes, I don't give 2 hoots. I slap him and push him around. I'll take a bear and I'll pull out his hair. A gorilla I'll trun on the ground. Elephants, leopards, gazelles, caribous. With jaguars, mostly, I'm famous. I don't fear their snarls, their barks, or their bites. I'm Narcissus, the brave taxidermist.
Well, thank you.
I ain't finished yet.
Oh, you're not?
Hey, there's an epilogue here.
Oh, an epilogue?
Yeah, wait till you hear this.
Excuse me.
Hey, I ain't afraid to treat him rough. As a taxidermist, I got the stuff. Excelsior!
Yeah, that is the finish?
Yeah. What do you think of it, brother?
Can you think of a rhyme for mink?
Yeah.
You do, and go away. Narcissus Bill. And now, last and by all means least, the obscure, the little-known East Side poetess, Miss Edna St. Vitus Teitelbaum. How long have you been a poetess, Miss Teitelbaum?
Ever since I am knee-high to a grasshopper.
You don't say.
I am saying.
Excuse me,
Even as a kiddie in school, I am rhyming.
At school you rhymed? You rhymed your lessons, you mean?
What else? For instance, arithmetic makes me sick.
Good, very good.
History is a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
In spelling, I'm smelling.
Fine.
At home, I am rhyming the family. Their frying pan she rinses, Mama's making blintzes. By night'll come Papa Teitelbaum.
I noticed that all of your poems seem to be short, staccato.
Always staccato. By me, staccato is on purpose.
Oh, you write your poems short to accelerate the tempo.
Short with snappy is keeping it pappy. Oh, listen to me. Unconsciously, I am rhyming.
You are uncanny, Miss Teitelbaum.
Oh, it could happen to anybody.
Oh, how reticent you are. How unassuming.
This also I couldn't help.
You wear the mantle of genius.
And on me it looks good, they are saying.
Fine. Well, now what about your poem tonight?
It will be short with staccato.
And what is the title?
Solitude.
Solitude, if you will, please.
Solitude. In a delicatessen on the floor stands a barrel near the door. In the barrel, filled with brine, floats a pickle saturnine. Customers come in steady trickle, but not one buys the lonely pickle. Bobbing, timing, floating, sinking, little pickle, what are you thinking? Kiddies playing, dip in the hands, and squeeze the pickle by the end. Dogs is sniffing the barrel nosy. Inside by the pickle, all is rosy. The pickle is leading a life sublime, safe in the barrel filled with brine. If life could be a barrel of brine, and man was a pickle green and fine, man couldn't fight. Man would spread goodwill, and the world could be getting a better dill.
Thank you. ladies and gentlemen, the Merrimacs render a song which something tells me is dedicated to me. It's called The Pessimistic Character with the Crabapple Face. It's I, I'm sure.
Throw him out the window, he can't stay. How did he get in here anyway? What do we want with him around the place? The pessimistic character with the crabapple face. When he hears a joke, he always cries. When there's any fun, he darn near dies. What do you say we laugh at his sad case? The pessimistic character with the crabapple face. He's never welcome anywhere he goes. Let him stay where he belongs in the...
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Amidst the deluge of fan letters that pours in on me daily, why, only this morning I had a letter from the federal government and a postcard from my father, these questions occur most frequently. How can I be attractive? How can I be popular? And my answer to all of you is, how can I tell?
What? Well, Fred, it isn't often we find you at a loss for a word or two.
Well, I wouldn't know what makes people attractive or popular, Harry.
Well, what about the way you feel? That has something to do with it, hasn't it?
Well...
Sure it does. When you feel well, you look well, don't you?
Say, I think you've got something there, Harry.
Yes, and lots of physicians would agree with that, too, Fred. That's why we pass along to you, ladies and gentlemen, their advice.
Thank you. Peter Van Steeden and his Decibel Desecrators have just completed Too Romantic. That was a sample, a digest version. The author is writing the rest of the chorus. We hope to have it ready for you next week. Now, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our guest is a surprise personality.
Hello?
Oh, hello, Portland. Pull up a... Thank you. It's very nice of Mrs. Burl to start that for you. Milton isn't working, and Mrs. Burl goes around applauding other people to keep in practice. But, hello, pull up a lower lip and sit down.
Well, I can't stay very long. I've got to meet Mama.
Your mother? Where is that 200 pounds of gristle and woe?
Mama's in Ripley's auditorium.
Got her old job back, eh?
Oh, Mama's never worked for Mr. Ripley.
What is she doing in his auditorium? Auditioning?
No, Mama's in there through an accident.
What happened?
Well, Mama was waiting for me outside the auditorium.
Yes? Well, that's the way the Merrimacs do it. Yeah? All right, your mother was waiting for you outside the auditorium.
Yes, and Mr. Ripley came along and said, "Who told you could leave your platform?" and pushed Mama in the auditorium.
Well, what do you know? Nobody seems to be greatly concerned about it. Well, you know that the same thing happened to my father one time. He was standing outside a waxworks. Pa was stiff. And they carried him inside and stood Pa in a corner.
Did you get him out?
No, it cost 40 cents to get in the waxworks. Well, I couldn't afford to go in and tell Pa to come home, so I became an offer. The moral is, always carry 40 cents with you. You never can tell when a relative will be hustled into a waxworks, and you might want to go up and see him sometime.
Well, that's good to remember.
Well, you remember it. That'll give you something to do. Now, what about our guest?
Our guest tonight is a spirit.
You mean a ghost?
No, this gentleman.
Tell him.
No. This gentleman is the spirit of the New York World Fair.
You mean he's the man selected to represent the typical American... Oh, wait, do you want to... is it all right? Our guest is clearing his throat. Do you want to... our guest from the microphone with my coat so that he could clear his throat. But you mean this gentleman is the gentleman selected to represent the typical American at the World's Fair?
That's right. Mr. Allen, meet Elmer.
Well, good evening, Elmer.
Hello, Fred, and hello, folks.
Ah, hello, folks, unquote. That is the official password at the fair. Hello, folks is really the battle cry of Flushing this summer, isn't it, Elmer?
That's right, Fred.
And as the fair's symbol, Elmer, you represent?
Just one of the folks, Fred. An average man who is proud of his country and proud of the fair.
Well, is your name actually Elmer? Elmer?
No, Fred. My right name is Ralph L. Bancroft. But until the fair closes next fall, I'm just Elmer.
And what are your duties at the fair? What does this Elmering consist of?
Well, my job is to welcome folks and radiate the atmosphere of informality.
Well, tell me, how do you sound the homey toxin, Elmer? Do you walk around the fair in your bathrobe and slippers? Or do you go around with your shirt tail hanging out, wearing red suspenders and smoking an old corn cob?
No, Fred.
No? Well, you're not informal enough, you see.
What I actually do when I'm on the ground is give the visitors a hearty greeting and make them feel at home. We want folks to feel that the World's Fair is just the same as any county fair, and that they can have a lot of fun for very little money.
You know, I read a piece in the Sun last week where a girl reporter spent a day at the fair for a little over $4.
Yes, and a lot of folks bring out picnic lunches and spend less than that. That's part of the message I take out on the road.
On the road? Now, don't tell me there's a number 2 company of the fair. Don't tell me there's a road company of the fair playing out of town with a goldfish bowl for a Lagoon of Nations and a dove dancer using sparrows.
No, Fred. I travel around the country alone as an ambassador of goodwill or salesman for the fair.
Well, do you have samples? A quart of milk from Elsie the Borden cow? Or a little trial-on or anything with you?
No, I just give talks at clubs and public gatherings on the fair and its features.
Well, I imagine this keeps you pretty busy. While I've got to turn these teeth in. You see that? If I have a whistle like that in Yonkers at this time of night, people would think the Albany train was going by. Lean out the window to wave at the engineer, which is the second largest industry in Yonkers, I believe. But while you are making your speeches on the road, Elmer, who takes care of your duties at the fair?
The fair has 2 Elmers, Fred.
Oh.
When I'm away, the other Elmer, Mr. Leslie Ostrander, is on the job.
Oh, they could use if they had an Elmer for a rainy day, they could use him this last week, couldn't they?
Yes,
well, there's
sir.
one thing about Elmer that confuses me, Elmer. How did the bosses at the fair go about selecting the average American?
Well, first, the fair had an artist, Howard Scott, paint a poster of his conception of Elmer.
Oh, I've seen that poster. The man with the broad hat, the big smile, and the little American flag in his lapel, and his thumbs akimbo in his vest.
That's right.
And you mean that after this picture was painted by Mr. Scott, Mr. Gibson had to look around for a man to match the picture?
Yes, they auditioned 300 Elmers in one day. There were tall ones, short ones, thin ones, and fat ones. Everybody that thought he looked like Elmer was there.
And P.S., you got the job.
Yes, I just happened to be the average American they were looking for.
Well, we're certainly lucky tonight. Books have been written about the average man. Surveys have been made to isolate the average man. And here we have you, Elmer, the average man, right on our program. How does it feel, Elmer?
Oh, about average, Fred.
Well, that makes it unanimous. You know, millions of men are sitting home around the country tonight, each man wondering if he is the average man. Now, as long as you're here, Elmer, how about giving us some statistics so that these men at home, can check up on themselves?
I'll be very glad to, Fred.
Fine. Now, first, as the average man, what is your age?
I'm 50.
How tall are you?
6 feet, exactly.
And you weigh?
205 pounds.
Your hat size?
7.5.
Suit?
44.
Shoes?
Size 10.
Your favorite food?
A good steak.
Favorite dessert?
Anything with whipped cream on it.
Your favorite color?
Blue.
Your favorite club or fraternal organization?
The American Legion.
Your favorite picture star?
Deanna Durbin.
Your favorite radio program?
Jack Benny.
Somebody called in another writer after I got through with this. That man was in there incognito at rehearsal under the name of Allen. Well, I'm sorry I brought it up. And finally, Elmer, which is your favorite day of the week?
Saturday, of course.
Why Saturday, Elmer?
That's payday, Fred.
I guess that's everybody's favorite. Now, just one more thing, Elmer. Dave Ellman, the hobby authority, says that the average man, has a hobby. What is yours?
My hobby is talking about the World's Fair, Fred. I spent all my spare time at the fair last year. This year, it's bigger, better, and less expensive, and it's a pleasure to tell people about it.
Well, thanks a lot for coming over tonight and Elmering for your Elmer.
Good night, Fred.
Good night, and thank you, Mr. Ralph L. Bancroft. Miss Wynne Murray, the singing star of American Jubilee at the World's Fair, arrives having trouble with a music stand. Is it all right, Wynne?
Yes,
we could put a man on there. It costs $700, but we'd be glad to do it. The man comes out and straightens that. But Wynne, arriving from the World's Fair, brings regards from Electro, the mechanical man, and a song called Some One of These Days. Thank you. This year, ladies and gentlemen, due to a lack of cooperation on the part of the calendar, Decoration Day comes on a Thursday. So what do we, the people, get?
1 day holiday. What can you do in 1 day? It's brutal.
Well, if you have a family, you can pile them into the car, if you have a car, and go for a picnic, if you go for picnics.
Picnics kill me. They throw me off my feet, and I feel like the end of a misspent life the next day.
Why not just play a little golf or tennis?
Not little Charlie. Too much exercise, too much sun. It's brutal. Don't forget, I gotta be on the job again Friday.
Well, after all, brother, no one can be sure he won't get upset from too much holiday.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. It's brutal. What's a fella gonna do?
A very simple thing, little man, and here it is.
Just drink 2 teaspoonfuls. This is Mr. and Mrs. Average Man's Round Table, where 3 persons selected from our studio audience are invited to give their opinions on a question that concerns some prominent issue of the day. These little sessions are entirely unrehearsed. Fred has taken his place at the round table, where he meets his fellow debaters for the first time.
How do you do?
All right.
All right, the forum open, Harry?
Yes, sir.
I didn't feel a draft here. Thanks a lot. All right, Portland, if you'll kindly introduce our first member.
Yes, Mr. William Harshy from Chicago, Illinois.
Well, good
Pardon me, Fred.
Yes, you have the privilege of greeting me first, Mr. Harshy, if you so desire.
How do you do, Fred?
Well, how do you do, Mr. Harshy? May I ask, you're from Chicago, are you?
Yes, that's right.
May I ask, what are you doing in New York?
Well, I'm doing a little business here.
Business? May I ask what your business is?
I'm a public relations counsel.
Well, I've got to worm it out of you, I see. What? Thanks to my old days as a vet, I'll get around to the facts here in a minute. But tell me, what business do you represent as a public relations counsel?
The Thompson Restaurant Company.
Oh, the Thompson Restaurant Chain? That's the Thompson Restaurant Chain. That was one of the first lunch systems or chains in the country, established in the country, wasn't it?
That's right, one of the earliest. One of the biggest.
One of the biggest. Does it go from coast to coast?
Not a national hookup, no.
Oh, it's not on the national. You don't have to have another restaurant alongside of the first one for California, right? But tell me, now I was going to ask you, which was the first restaurant outfit to invent the one-arm chair? Put those one-arm chairs in.
I believe the Thompsons were, yes.
The Thompsons were? Well, why did they make them all right-handed? Could you ever tell me that?
I don't think we have many southpaw lunchers.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, frankly, Mr. Harshay. With those right-handed one-arm lunch chairs, I'm left-handed. I ate off the floor for 2 years. I wish you would. Well, fortunately, the restaurants were so clean I could eat off the floor, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you,
But, yeah, that was years ago, unless memory is up to a prank tonight, Mr. Tell me, how many restaurants do you have here in New York?
12 in New York.
12 in New York City. Don't you think there are too many restaurants in New York City at the moment?
The Thompson Company believes so, yes.
The Thompson Company believes so. Well, I do. I often wonder. There are so many restaurants around Times Square, and I often wonder how they all could keep going. And a fellow explained it to me this afternoon. He says the way all these restaurants around Broadway, their function is, the only way they're able to function is because the pickets from in front of each restaurant eat in one of the other restaurants. Thank you a lot, Mr. Harshet. And now, Portland?
Mrs. Alton Cook from Jackson Heights, New York.
Well, good evening, Mrs. Cook.
Good evening, Fred.
Mrs. Alton Cook. The name Alton Cook sounds familiar. Are you, perchance, related to the famous radio critic and columnist on the New York World Telegram?
I'm married to the man, Fred.
You're married to Alton Cook? Have you had any good reviews in the column?
Never.
You haven't? Well, tell
Never
me.
been able to make it.
You've never had your name mentioned in the column? Maybe if your husband reviews the program tonight, you'll find your name in the World Telegram tomorrow. But tell me, I noticed that your husband in his column recently has been writing a lot about television. Do you have a television set at home?
Yes, we do, Fred.
Do you? Do you enjoy the television telecasts, whatever you call them?
They're very good. We like them.
What do they offer you for programs now?
Oh, you get track meets and horse races and
plays?
Lots of old motion pictures.
Old moving pictures. That's what they do with old moving pictures. I thought they made them up into mandolin picks. Well, thanks a lot, Mrs. Cook. I had a joke there, but I can't remember.
Mr. John Fogarty from Great Falls, Montana.
Well, I happen to know Mr. Fogarty, Portland. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Fred.
John, you have sort of disappeared from the airwaves in recent months. Where have you been keeping yourself?
I've been in California for 3 years, Fred, and just come back here a few months ago.
Oh, you made a fine thing out of me. I said a few months. You've been gone 3 years.
I've been gone 3 years.
Well, time flies in radio unless you have options, John. But tell me, aren't you doing any radio work? Are you in another field?
Well, I'm going to do some concerts, Fred. I'm going to the coast in June. I'll be in Muncie, Indiana, then in Casper, Wyoming, the 19th.
Yeah.
And the 24th of June in Great Falls, Montana, my hometown.
You're going to play concerts on the way to...
On the way to Hollywood, yes.
Is your home Great Falls?
That's right.
You haven't been back there for 20 years?
20 years.
You didn't sing there before you left, did you? That had nothing to do with the length of time you've been away.
Well, that's the question, Fred.
Well, I hope you get a better welcome at Great Falls, John, than I did. Did you ever play Bozeman, Montana?
Yes, I have.
I played there many years ago. I played one night in Bozeman, Montana. The Pantages show got off the train and came up the street between the two snowbanks there. And a guy standing in front of a pool room looked at the Pantages show coming up the street, and he says, "Gosh, Thursday again." Well, that seems to bring us to our question, and tonight we take up a matter that always seems to rear its ugly head when the vacation resorts are about to open. Now, each year, factions in towns that cater to vacationists wrangle about the summer guests who wear shorts, bathing suits, and abbreviated apparel away from the beach. Men and women are condemned for roaming the streets and frequenting the shopping sections on the half-shell. Now, our question tonight is, do you think that shorts and scanty costumes should be worn only at the beaches, or should the towns that solicit summer visitors permit them to enjoy a maximum amount of comfort and parade the town dressed as they see fit? Now, first, Mr. Harshet, how do you feel about the matter?
Well, I believe that the shorter the better, Fred. I believe in more cuticles.
Oh, you believe? In other words, you do not go to the summer resorts for the bathing, you go for the peeking. But you are in favor of the short subject.
The shorter, yes.
I see.
Yes.
All right. Mrs. Cook, how do you stand on this question of the demitasse get-up for the summer visit?
I'm very much in favor of it, Fred.
You are in favor of it?
Yes. We have a boat, and it makes it so much easier where you can just dash right into town and shorts or a bathing suit and not have to worry about getting dressed.
Yes, but you just run up the street and run back down on the boat again. I mean, you're not circulating around the town in the shopping district.
I never seem to have time for that.
Well, couldn't you now? Wait a minute. Couldn't you just get up on the deck of the boat? There are so many A&P stores in town. Couldn't you just back the boat into some harbor and yell, "Hey there," and any A&P man will come out. They get good salaries. It ain't hay, but I mean, if you mention hay in the street, I think they'd come out and service you. But you think, then, that the freedom of the sea should be observed and that people should be allowed to wear comfortable costumes around resorts. And Mr. Fogarty, how do you feel about it?
I feel the same way, Fred. I believe that resorts that
cater to the summer vacation.
Summer vacationists should expect that they come down there in shorts and so forth.
Well, I see. In other words, you feel there should be no hullabaloo.
That's right.
And the sun should be given more territory to work on.
Right.
Well, of course, the results have been tabulated, they tell me. Who tabulated them, I don't know. And our committee doesn't stand at sitting at the moment. It hardly seems possible that our little discussion here tonight can have any great effect on the coming summer styles. We predict that girls this summer will mix their costumes from the standard sartorial recipe. 1 part calico to 9 parts epidermis. And the small-town policemen will only pinch themselves to make sure they stay awake until Labor Day. On this note of sarong despair, our meeting adjourns, and thank you all for your kind cooperation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Merrimacs offer a number called Ain't You Ashamed. Grammatically, the title is terrible, but musically, the song is swell. Ain't You Ashamed? Now that things have quieted down and we're practically alone, I'd like to... Oh, come in, I guess.
Pardon me, but is this the Fred Allen program?
That's right.
Well, then you must be Fred Allen.
In what is left of the flesh, yes, madam. If you have an autograph book,
Oh, no, don't bother. I just want to talk to Mr. Von Zell.
Oh, would you step over here, Herschel? It's, you're public again.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Von Zell,
Oh, well, it's all right. What for?
for what you say about an attractive smile. I know I don't look like one of those glamorous picture stars and can't have beautiful clothes or go to expensive hairdressers, but you made me realize that I can have an attractive smile, so I want to thank you and Ipana.
Oh, well, of course, all I do is to try and point out the importance of an attractive smile. All your thanks should go to Ipana toothpaste and gum massage. You see, our teeth are seldom sparkling and bright when our gums are...
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the Allen Art Players dramatize a story told by the great Chinese detective, One Long Pan, to a muffin girl on a side street in Greenwich Village. This episode is called Death Takes a Pretzel Baron, or Who Killed Reginald Feinschreiber. The scene, the rumpus room of the palatial Feinschreiber penthouse at 10 7/8 Delancey Street. Reginald Feinschreiber is lying dead on his bare rug. Balsam, Feinschreiber's butler, enters the room.
Your zombie, sir. Gad. Mr. Feinschreiber's dead. It's murder. Who done it?
Yes, I know who done it.
Who done it?
We know who done it.
What is this?
Quiet, please. Go on, keep going, Balsam.
Yes, sir. Gad, Mr. Feinschreiber's dead. It's murder. Who done it?
Hey, we told you, we know who done it.
Who is that heckling in the front row there?
And it's me. Yeah, me too.
Well, what's the idea of interrupting our drama? Who killed Reginald Feinschreiber?
We know the solution to the mystery already, Mr. Allen.
Yeah.
The man who killed Reginald Feinschreiber is the guy who discovers him. Balsam, the butler. Right, Irma?
Right.
Uncanny.
Yeah.
How did you two ever guess the solution of this baffling mystery? Who are you?
I'm Fenton O. Wilt. I'm your fan, Mr. Allen.
My fan?
Yeah. I'm president of the Fred Allen Fan Club.
The Fred Allen Fan Club, eh?
Yeah, I'm the club.
You're the...
Yeah, this is the wife, Irma.
The full handle is Mrs. Irma Wilt.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly glad to meet a Fred Allen Fan Club in toto. But however, this baffles me. How did you folks solve the Feinschreiber mystery?
All the mysteries in radio is the same, Mr. Allen. All the music is the same.
That's the trouble with radio. It's all the same.
Well, I'm sorry, folks. I haven't time to discuss radio with you now. I'm sorry.
Somebody ought to discuss it.
Look, I can't. I have a sketch to do here in the next 10 minutes.
Hey, listen, Mr. Allen. Give Irma and me them 10 minutes
And we'll tell you a few things about radio.
Yeah.
You mean that you, as two radio fans, want to tell the world what's wrong with radio?
Yeah. The present company excluded, of course.
Why don't you go to whole hog, Fenton?
Well, the guy's right here, Irma.
Well, don't mind me, folks. I mean, after all. Well, look now, thinking it over quickly, maybe you have something. You two. If it'll only take 10 minutes to find it out, I think I'll give you the 10 minutes.
Oh, boy.
There you are.
Introduce us, Mr. Allen.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight a couple of average listeners have asked for 10 minutes to tell radio off. Presenting Mr. and Mrs. Fenton O. Wilt.
Hold it now. There's something that's wrong with radio right here, Mr. Allen.
What?
That applause. And nobody like me comes to the microphone and the house falls down. It can only happen on the radio.
Well, after all, you're on the air, Fenton. You're entitled to a reception.
Why? Why is it?
Yeah, who am I? Fenton O. Wilt. I'm not only a slob, but I'm an unknown slob. What are people applauding me for?
Well, I don't know. They like to do it. Stimulates the circulation. But never mind. Never mind the applause question. What is number one on your radio peeve parade?
It's them cereal programs.
Right, I'm on them cereals.
Well, what's wrong with the cereals?
There's too much trouble going on all the time.
Yeah, we're nuts trying to keep track of the grief.
What? How do you mean?
Well, if you can put on one of them cereal finishes, we'll show you.
All right. Hey, we can do it. A serial finish, our players. Music, Peter.
And so, with Grandpa Henbane's beard caught in the wearing mixer, with Granny Henbane's Mother Hubbard on fire from that hot foot, with the baby crawling into that blazing furnace as Susan Henbane tries to pry her leg out from between the jaws of that mad dog to run for help, we conclude another episode in the lives of radio's lovable family, the Henbanes. What will happen next? Will Grandpa Henbane get his head twisted off in the wearing mixer? Will Granny, now ablaze, be able to put herself out? Will the baby be nothing but a clinker in that roaring furnace? Tune in again and find out.
You see what we mean, Mr. Allen? Who can keep track of all that trouble?
Yeah, when we tune in again, we forget who was crawling into the furnace, whose leg was in the mad dog's mouth. It's disconcerting.
Yes, I see your point. I sense your dilemma. Well, if you had your way, folks, how would all these cereals end?
Oh, I'll show you. Music, mister.
Well, this is a pretty kettle of fish. When Granny Bramble learned that no good Grandpa Bramble had spent the mortgage money for Applejack, she grabbed the old army rifle and blew off the top of Grandpa's head. As Granny and her daughter Mary struggled for the rifle, it went off again and blew off the top of Granny's head. Mary, realizing that she was now an orphan, turned the rifle on herself and blew off the top of her head. The baby, thinking they were playing a game, blew off the top of his little head. Well, that seems to be the end of the Brambles, folks. With no Brambles left, nothing can happen in the next episode. But tune in and make sure.
Now, there is a cereal.
You said it.
But everybody's killed.
Oh, that's all right. Now there's nothing for us listeners to worry about.
Well, I know, but what happens in the next episode?
You get a fresh family, kill them off, and keep going.
Sure, there's a million of them families. You can kill one a day and never miss them.
A great idea, folks. Well, that sort of takes care of the cereals, I imagine. Now, what else bothers you in radio? Have you any other peeves?
Oh, have we got any other peeves?
We ain't started yet.
Well, what else in radio is on the pan?
What about that guy who keeps giving the time?
You mean the fellow who comes on every hour and says?
The correct time is exactly 9 seconds before 10 o'clock.
That's the guy.
Well, what's wrong with him?
Always the correct time.
Yeah. Can he be wrong once in a while? Gosh, none of us is perfect.
Oh, you mean you like to have him make a mistake occasionally?
Yeah, why can't he come on sometime and say something like this?
The correct time is exactly 10 o'clock. No, I'm wrong, folks. This watch was 12 minutes fast this noontime. Must have gained 3 minutes since then. The time... Now, wait a minute. I set it back 15 minutes tonight. Well, that ought... No, it was yesterday I set it back. I don't know what time it is, folks. Well, it don't make no difference. If anybody knows the correct time, will you phone it in? Good night, folks.
That's more like it. That shows the guy is human.
Certainly, nobody's indelible.
No, I guess not. Now, is there anything else on your mind, folks?
Tell them about them contests, Fenton.
Oh, yeah. What about them contests where they award the grand prize?
You mean when the announcer says...
The first prize in the Pup Pep Dog Biscuit Contest. $1,000 goes to Mrs. Tansy Tidy of Bent Fork, Nebraska.
Bent Fork, Nebraska. Always the winner lives in Bent Fork, Nebraska.
Or Toenail, Arkansas, or Plum Duff, Mississippi.
Yeah.
If you had your way, folks...
The announcer would say...
The grand prize, $1,000 in the Zippo Corn Plaster Jingle Contest, goes to Mr. Horace Twine of New York City.
Right. Yeah. Let somebody in the city win something sometime.
Them's my sentiments exactly.
Well, I guess that about cleans up everything.
Hey, are you kidding? What about them women who are always writing letters into all our programs?
Oh, you mean when the program starts and then the announcer comes in and says...
Mrs. Waldo Claw of Throgsmouth, Vermont writes, quote, I have been serving Puffo, the instant gelatin dessert, for years. My husband is a bank robber. Whenever a posse drops in for dinner, I'm never stuck for dessert. I simply put 1 spoonful of Puffo into 7 gallons of hot water, chill and serve. Puffos, the stuffo.
Always the same routine.
Yeah, horse feathers.
Well, if you had your way, folks...
Once in a while, you'd hear a letter like this.
Mrs. Damon Frill of Honeycomb, West Virginia writes, quote, a neighbor told me about Weppo, your Jiffy plum pudding. I made a Weppo plum pudding for my husband. It set so heavy, for 2 days he couldn't get up off his chair. They operated on my husband yesterday and removed from his stomach a croquet ball with raisins in it. Unquote.
That's more like it.
Yeah, these things ought to be straightened out, Mr. Allen.
Why, you should live so long and baffle science. Well, folks, I'm afraid your 10 minutes are about up. I guess you've covered practically everything.
Have we, Irma?
What about them opera broadcasts?
Oh, yeah,
What's wrong with the opera?
That's them words. Nobody can ever understand them words.
Well, naturally. Most operas are sung in foreign tongues.
They're all McGee, old-timey.
Yeah, they all sound like a lot of ravioli double talk to me.
Why can't the radio give us a hot opera with words a plain American can understand?
All right, if this is your final peeve, folks, the Mighty Allen Opera Group will give you a snatch of swing opera with real American lyrics you can understand. Overture, Gatty.
Oh, the Jim Jam Jump is the jumping jive. Jumping jive. Makes you 9 foot tall when you're 4 foot 5. 4 foot 5. Makes you like your eggs on the Jersey side. Get hip and follow through. Don't be a nickaroo. Well, all right. 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 Ding, jump, jump, jump.
Well, all right. I had one left over. How was that, folks?
You see, that's opera.
Yeah, it ain't good, but you can understand it.
Well, I must say that you two are hard to please. Now, is there anything in radio you do like?
Yeah,
Only one thing.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear that there is something you do like. What is it?
It's that music you play to finish everything off.
Yeah.
Which music?
You know.
That you like.
Yeah, I like that.
That you like, that you get. Peter. gentlemen, no matter whose turn it is tonight to pick up the baby, let out the cat, or empty the water under the icebox, I'd suggest that the men do it, and do it now. For the next part of our program is for women only, mothers especially.
Next to our family physicians, we...